Now this, a BBC educational programme aimed at children as young as 9, features a scene where a teacher tells youngsters that there are over 100, if not more, gender identities now. The film is called Identity, Understanding Sexual and Gender Identities. It's being offered on the public broadcaster's website as part of its relationships and sex education package. In one of the scenes on the BBC show, a pupil asks this.
What are the different gender identities?
That's a really, really exciting question to ask.
Do you know there are so many gender identities? So we know we've got male and female, but there are over 100, if not more, gender identities now.
Yeah, I think I would probably challenge that on the basis that I genuinely do not believe that the woman that said that knows what she's talking about. I'm pretty sure she quoted it from something. It comes despite government guidance published last year, which advised schools to exercise caution when teaching children about gender issues. Let's speak to Bev Jackson, co-founder of the LGB Alliance. Bev, afternoon to you. Always good to talk.
Thank you very much for having me on here.
It's a pleasure. I was wondering when I saw this. Firstly, I can't imagine a 9-year-old just randomly asked that question. So we have to sort of wonder how that even came around. But nonetheless, the question was asked and the answer came back. Over an exciting question, as you heard there, Bev, as the teacher said, over 100 genders. What do you suppose that was based on?
Well, I think that most people who see this video for the first time, in fact, that most people I hear from think it's satire, and they think it's quite funny and amusing, more than 100 genders. And then they hear that it's not actually satire at all. It's supposed to be education, and it's actually aimed at children aged 9 to 11. And then they stop laughing actually at that point, and they think, whoa, what's going on here? This is not fact. There's no fact. And as you just pointed out, Ian, the Department for Education was very clear in September that all this material has to be evidence-based, it has to be age-appropriate, and it shouldn't reinforce harmful stereotypes. And I'm afraid this so-called educational program does all of those, and it's really quite shocking. It's not funny anymore when you. No,
it isn't. You're right. It's kind of almost perfect satire when you first look at it, and you think, this is real. And what's I've interviewed so many people in this area, as you know, over the years, and even psychiatrists who are very locked into the idea that we should be more understanding of different genders. I've never heard anybody so randomly wheel out the number over 100 in the way that a school teacher did.
Yeah, it's really worrying that the worrying thing is that it's obviously so weird and it's presented as facts, and then you think, okay, so this was put up and apparently something to do with the Open University, and then you discover that both the BBC and the Open University are Stonewall diversity champions, and you think, has that got something to do with it? Because
Probably.
There's been many complaints have been submitted about this video, and still it's there. It's been there for quite a long time, and I'm very glad it's attracting attention now, but it's been there for a long time, and you think, why is that? I think that there's a bit of a misunderstanding. It's so well-meaning, all this. People want diversity, they want inclusiveness, they want to be kind. And in an effort to do that, they join the Stonewall Diversity Champion Scheme, and they think they must be doing something good. But I think people don't realize that Stonewall it's not the Stonewall that it used to be.
Well, I was just going to make that point, actually, Bev, that, did Stonewall kind of run out of things to argue, which they rightly did, in the incredible work and the history of Stonewall, which you will know better than I. And thank goodness they were there along with others to make points that needed to be made at the time and to campaign in the way they did. But of course, some of those arguments are largely gone now and done and dusted and sorted. Not everything, and I wouldn't suggest otherwise, but. Is it that? Do you think? I mean, this organisation was about gay rights and is now suddenly a very different organisation.
Yeah, in 2015, it became a gender identity organisation. And if it had changed its name to, I don't know, the Judith Butler Society or something, then people would know where they are. And instead of calling its scheme the Diversity Champion Scheme, it could call itself the Queer Theory Champion Scheme, and people would know where they are, and they wouldn't be so confused and think they were signing up to something wonderful and kind. It's propaganda, and it certainly shouldn't be told to children. It's damaging. It's not funny. It isn't satire, and it causes a lot of damage. I think anybody who listened to Dr. David Bell, who spoke very, very movingly, very eminent psychiatrist, on Channel 4 on Saturday about the harm this causes. It isn't just harmful, it is harmful propaganda. If children get the idea that their body parts, that's what it says in the video, are different from how they feel inside, some children, and especially children on the autistic spectrum, children who are struggling with their sexual orientation as teenagers, they go online, they find all sorts of material, and they think, oh, it means I'm trans. And then they go down a harmful path.
Yeah.
And I think this is really very unfortunate. It's well-meaning, but it's harmful propaganda.
And I wonder this business of 100 different genders, which seem to be a figure just sort of plucked out of the air, as far as I can gather. Are we sort of in danger, do you think, here perhaps of translating a proclivity or a penchant or just a choice as a gender? Somebody says, well, this is what I'm into, or this is what I do, or this is what I stand for. Therefore, it must be a gender, and people are scared witless to criticise that because they wrongly confuse this debate with the debate of sexuality, back to the Stonewall issue. So people think, well, if I say anything against this, that makes me some kind of bigot. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be seen as some kind of homophobe or genderphobe or whatever it happens to be. So I'll sign up to it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. People don't want to be criticised and called bigots. And in fact, this has got nothing to do with bigotry. Biology is not bigotry. We know, and children hopefully still learn in biology lessons what male and female mean. And they're not two of 100 different genders. They are, the two sexes that human beings are. And that's what children should be taught. Children need to be taught facts and not to be confused with ideology and propaganda.
On that point, listen, always good to talk. Bev, thank you. Bev Jackson, who is the co-founder of the LGB Alliance, with us here on Talk Radio. It's always good to get Bev's steer. And I think the really crucial point that was picked up on there were charities and organisations which, for some reason, there are many of them. I mean, she mentioned Stonewall, but there are lots of others, mermaids and the like, who won't come on and talk to us whenever we ask. And I think perhaps the questions are either too difficult or just kind of unanswerable in many respects. I'm pretty sure there's some of that, but a lot of these charities and organisations have somehow got a foothold into advisory capacities, partly because I think government ministers or advisors, because often governments turn to these organisations. So what do you think? You seem to be the go-to place, and you think, well, I'm sorry, Jimbo's gender charity is not the go-to anything just because somebody told you it is. And then organisations, education, politics, all sorts of areas have gone to this kind of select group who purport to represent the definitive and default view of all of this and taking it as read, when in fact some of the information and advice they will be getting is quite radical. It's certainly not qualified. It's not peer-reviewed or proven in any form. And yet it's taken as read because it comes from a bunch of organisations that say it's that. Isn't that curious? The other day, did you see this story of the headline was a woman was imprisoned for raping another woman. Did you see this story, Ricky? And it was a trans female. Except it wasn't, because this person still had a penis and has done forever, obviously. And it was just a bloke with long hair who was purporting to be. But the newspapers were all, despite the fact you were talking about rape here, and I think I'm right in saying that rape in the respect it was being discussed is something that can only happen when a male attacks a female in this context. I know there's other elements of law around that. A woman had raped no, this was a bloke. Okay, you can. I mean, I know it's crude to say look at the picture of the bloke. This was a bloke. Let's just call this for what it was. It was a bloke who was claiming to be a woman with no bodily transformation whatsoever and culpable of rape. And this is the crazy place we found ourselves in. Even in a case like that, people are jumping all over eggshells in order to avoid saying the wrong thing. Well, we still better refer to her as a her because it's a her, because she decided it was a her. But everybody looking at this story and reading it knew differently. Even saying this out loud now, somebody listen to this verse, I'm sorry. It was a terrible case, but it was definitely a woman. And that's what we're dealing with. And that's the reason why so few people challenge these things. The 100 gender thing plucked out of thin air. Good Lord, how did we get there?